like we got everybody here. It is. Are we good now? The echoing of my voice was a little weird. Okay, well it is 7 o'clock and time to begin our policy session. We appreciate everyone being here. If you're here to speak either during one of our public hearings tonight or during our public comment period, there are forms out there on the podium to fill out. If you would do that and get those up to Nancy Dean, our city recorder. We'll begin tonight with our opening ceremony and turn the time over to Councilmember Peterson for that.
If you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father in heaven, we gather together as members of our community to give you thanks for the opportunity we have to assemble freely and to participate in government on behalf of those who live here in Clearfield and those who will come and visit in this area. We are grateful for those who serve and protect in our community, for our police and fire, and for those in our military who protect the freedoms that we enjoy and the rights and privileges we enjoy as members of this nation. We ask for a blessing and protection to be upon our residents and those who serve and protect, and also ask that we may, as a body, deliberate in wisdom, that we might do that which is the best for our community. We ask for a blessing to be upon the proceedings this evening and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Nika. We have minutes to approve tonight, a whole slew of them. We have the work sessions from April 18th, April 25th, May 2nd, May 9th, and May 30th, as well as the policy session from May 23rd. Council, get a chance now to review those minutes.
I have, there was a couple of things that I got with Nancy with. You want me to say what they were? On the April 18th, when we were at Holt and then came back here, we probably should note that I wasn't here when we came back because I left to go to St. George. And one of them, I think it was the April 25th, on the visitors it lists Tim Juggler instead of Brady Juggler.
Any other changes or additions to the minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion on.
I will make a motion to approve all of these minutes with the changes that I've mentioned.
Second.
We have a motion and a couple of seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes stand as submitted. We have four public hearings this evening. So we'll begin with our first public hearing. It is a public hearing to receive public comment on the rezone request by Silver Peak Engineering. Property located at approximately 1250 South State from M1 Manufacturing to M1 SP Manufacturing with a special purpose overlay. And we'll turn the time over to Spencer.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Sorry, microphone. The request from Silver Peak Engineering on behalf of Stadler Rail, rezone 1703-001, is a request to change the property from M1 Manufacturing to M1 SP with a special purpose overlay for the purposes of developing this site into a facility for Stadler Rail to locate their U.S. headquarters and operations. The request is for approximately 24 acres of the site. This site in its entirety was 70 acres. Recently 10 acres has been sold off to the Thackeray Garden Company for purposes of residential development, which leaves 60 acres left over, and 24 of which is being requested for the rezone at this time. Again, as we discussed in our work session there, this project will be a phased approach. Phase 1 will be approximately 200,000 square feet and approximately 400 employees, and then from there they will build additional phases and keep moving forward on this side as it will be their U.S. headquarters. There are some things that they've requested relative to this SP overlay that we'll discuss later on, but I wanted to give you a look and feel of the public as well of what this facility will look like, along with the flags of different countries as well as Stadler out front. Elevations will be very clean and efficient glass, and then the simplicity of white and blue for their facades. As I stated earlier, this is a portion of property that has been left over from the development of the 10-acre piece that has apartments on it, or will have apartments on it. The purpose of this request is to allow for Stadler to develop their site consistent with the needs for manufacturing and light industrial facilities such that they were requested. Previously, the site was zoned MU, but failure to act upon the agreements relative to the MU zoning district has reverted it back to M1 and C2 on the site, specifically M1 for these 24 acres. Staff has read through the request from Stadler as well as the SP overlay request, and has no concerns with that, but for purposes of information for the public and the council, we'd like to go through those and let you know what some of the requests are. The first is a building height request from 45 feet up to 65 feet for the entirety of this facility. Additionally, they'd like to request that there be an allowance for black vinyl coated chain link for security fencing around the north end of the building, as well as the test track. There were some concerns discussed about fencing, not screening storage, but I think relative to this request, I think we can accommodate those concerns by requiring screening of storage where storage is appropriate, but otherwise the north side of the building we've been told will just be for their big trucks coming in and out of the site, and really just to keep it secure from those who may use Depot Road to come into the Clearfield Station site. Additionally, building materials, this will be a phased approach for the project, and the northwest and east portions of the buildings will have additions onto them. So they're requesting that final elevations be for the final plan. Some of the discussion that was had in the council was timings and putting timing in time frames in place so that we can make sure they're meeting their objectives, and the city is not going to get a building that's half built or does not have that look and feel that we would desire for the area. And I think that can be accomplished relative to the development agreement, which will be required to identify and address all of these issues. Additionally, they've requested larger drive approaches for their large trucks, 120 feet, which has been reviewed and doesn't give any concern for staff relative to that request. Our code requires 12 square feet maximum for flags flown in tandem, and they're requesting a little bit larger square footage for their signs, especially for the Stadler sign, as it is a little bit different. It doesn't, not like the state of Utah, the American flag. It's long and more of a banner type of sign, so we've requested some ability to design those flags consistent with what they've done at other facilities. Requesting 90 stalls for the site. Again, their square footage for their commercial building will be approximately 40,000 square feet. This would require 80 stalls, so we feel like the 90 stalls is over and above what we would typically require, given that the majority of the building will be for assembly, manufacturing, and storage of materials, and not for actual office space. And then finally, they requested for their off-street loading areas to be consistent with their operational needs. And so our requirement for them to have gross floor area of 10,000 square feet or more, which is to be occupied by commercial and industrial use. They just want some flexibility in that so they could accommodate their truck traffic and those coming in and out of the site, which we'll review in more detail during the site plan process and make sure we've tied specific language to that so that we know definitively how much off-street loading they're going to have relative to their square footage. So, again, staff has reviewed these items and doesn't have any concerns or issues with them, and finds them to be acceptable within the bounds of the request. Is recommending approval of this item based on the conditions provided.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. I'll go ahead and declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to speak in regards to this public hearing?
Your Honor, I'm seeing no request to comment. I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our second public hearing is to receive public comment on the proposed 2017-2018 fiscal year budget, and we will turn the time over to Rich.
Council, it's my pleasure to present the final fiscal 18 budget. We've had many meetings starting back in January, going over a lot of information, a lot of good discussion, and this is the final step in getting the fiscal 18 budget prepared and set as it starts in July 1st. All the budget decisions that were made when we were designing the FY18 budget kept in mind our goals, what the city council and the mayor we talked about in January, and also the city goals. And just overview is just maintaining quality municipal services, improving Clearfield's image, livability, and economy. The budget is responsible. We're financially healthy, and this will maintain that trajectory. We believe we're consistently improving our services with limited resources. We do anticipate using reserves, but those are for one-time capital projects. No reserves will be used for operations, and we'll still maintain a healthy reserve for emergencies and future capital projects. So just a quick overview for those that weren't there for all of the information. This is very consolidated information. Where do the funds come from? A large portion is charges for utilities, so our enterprise funds, just over 10 million, and taxes is just over 11 million. And that includes our CDRA revenues as well. And all the rest are, charges for services would be the next largest, and all the rest are a little small there. So majority is from utilities and taxes. And then where do the funds go? Almost half go to utilities and utility capital projects, and the rest for debt service and all the governmental functions listed here: public safety, public works, community services, and economic development. So the major changes in the FY18 budget from 17, we've increased our projections for sales tax with new online receipts, and also just the economy in general is doing better than what we budgeted last year, so we've increased that $300,000. Property tax rate has decreased 3%. Because the values overall in Clearfield went up 3%. So as the values go up, rate goes down. The budget also budgets for a market merit increase, a 14% increase in health insurance, 2 additional police officers, and a full-time planner CDBG specialist. Major capital projects, we've increased our street surface treatment from $200,000 last year to $400,000. We've budgeted monies for crossing lights at Clearfield High School and the rail trail at 300 North. We have a street reconstruction at 250 North Street from North Main to 300 North, maybe pond upgrades and water system upgrades for almost $1 million. And again, just to talk about property tax, the average property tax payer, average value in Clearfield, they will pay $180 to the city for the year for all the services provided by the city. The rate, again, decreased 3%. It's been the same rate for the last 6 years, so this year it is going down. And then what we're going to cover at work session, I'm just going to cover here really quick, changes since the tentative budget. So this is very detailed information. The first part is just projects that were not done that we thought would be, but just didn't quite make it, so we've rolled it to the next year. So nothing new there, it's just rolling to the new year. And then the next category was rolling new projects, and then we had to add some monies. So the Maintenance Operations Center Phase 2, we added extra $125,000 between 5 funds, and then we had to add a little extra for the water project. New changes, we cut the ATK incentive. That will not be happening next year, just from an adjustment from prior years. When we've talked about that before, reduced, and then subsequently reduced transfers for revenue to the general fund because of the 5% admin fee. And then we adjusted all the revenues in the CDRA to match actual. Before it was just a projection. And then we'll see if any of these need to be court tablets. That's just so we can have electronic signatures in court. cut the mobile app because we included it in our larger software purchase, so it was redundant, and same with iWork. HipLink software was already part of Spillman, which is our police software, so it was redundant as well, so we cut that. And then we added $50,000 for a water project in Americold in their parking lot. They're digging up and putting in a new main there. We're going to participate. There's one other thing that came up yesterday that's not on this list, so I'd just like to mention it. It's another roll forward, so it's not new money. The park storage as part of the maintenance operation center is not completed, so we're going to roll another 10,000 of the 15,000 that was budgeted in fiscal 17. So again, we're financially healthy. We're adequate reserves, very healthy reserves, and we recommend approving the fiscal 18 budget. Are there any questions?
Okay, go ahead and declare this public hearing open. Is there anyone here to speak in regards to the budget? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, seeing no public comment, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public hearing number 3 is to receive public comment on the proposed transfer of resources from the Water Enterprise Fund to the General Fund for water used by the city's general operation in 2017-2018 fiscal year budget. Rich, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been such a long time.
So this is a requirement by the state for further transparency. This public hearing, the next one, and we've done this. This is probably our 3rd year now, where we're just recognizing water we're not charging ourselves for. So the governmental funds use water like sprinkling of parks, and we're not charging ourselves that. So this is just recognizing how much it would cost if we charged ourselves for water.
Okay. Well, we'll declare the public hearing open. Anyone here to speak about water?
Seeing none, I move to close the public hearing.
Did you?
Oh,
Oh, we had a comment. I didn't have a form, but
okay.
sir, if you'd come
You
up
can
and
come
state
up.
your name and address for the record.
The name is Dale Warbeski. The address 1125 East, 1050 South. Actually, I'm against all these proposals of transferring funds to the general fund because somewhere along the line, they're going to have to be made up with additional taxes and, in the case of the water, increase in water fees, increase in sewer fees, and we've already been told by the turd plant over there that they're going to increase their rates. And I don't believe that any of these funds should be transferred to the general fund. Number one, we need sewer repairs, we need water repairs, especially in the subdivisions from 700 south to the Layton line, and from 1000 east all the way to the freeway. I have seen numerous, shall we say, breaks in the water system. That subdivision there is 50 years old, and they're going to have to do some extensive repairs to get it back in shape. And if you're transferring money out of these utility funds and water fund and the sewer fund, you're not going to have any money left to make the repairs. And I don't think this particular budget will allow for the repairs to be made. These are old, this is an old subdivision, and I have counted in the last 3 years 7 different, shall we say, breaks in a line where, and even just last week, there was a city had to come out and do a repair on a meter for one of the units there, and the next thing you know, they were just getting breaks in a couple other different locations. I believe these funds should stay exactly where they're at, and they be used to make the necessary repairs in the various subdivisions. Now, that's just one subdivision. I know this whole city, sewer lines and water lines are ancient in certain cases, and they need to be repaired, and these funds should stay exactly where they're at to be utilized for additional repairs. I don't believe we can transfer anything. We're not in Washington DC where we can move money around and make it look important. It's not. A trick that is very friendly with the taxpayers. So,
Well,
that's
thank
my
you.
opinion.
I'm going to turn just a little bit of time over to Adam Leonard, our city manager, just to kind of address that, if you would.
Your Honor and Counsel, again, just as a reminder, the purpose of the transfer actually saves our residents in their taxes. Were it not for the transfer, we'd have to make up the cost of this water that the city is using for public facilities in other ways, either through an increase in the water rates, an increase in the property tax, or some other form of revenue generation. By transferring the money in this way, which is consistent with the way that the state auditor has asked cities and towns throughout the state to handle these types of things, we're actually able to not have to increase the rates to cover that amount of water that's being used by the city.
And how's the health of our water and sewer funds?
You know, the water and sewer funds are funds that we spend an enormous amount of time on, especially when it comes to financing our infrastructure. One thing that we began doing last year, as you recall, is not only looking at the current budget year, but also going 3 years into the future with our 3-year project plans. And that's been a tremendous advantage to our organization to be looking long-term and making sure that we're seeing all of the projects that are coming down the line, anticipating those in advance, and then making sure that we have good plans in place to pay for those needed improvements. I believe Rich touched on briefly the amount of money that you saw. Nearly half of our budget is spent towards utilities, and that includes water, sewer, storm drain. We do spend a very large amount of money every year. I would certainly agree with the gentleman who made public comment. Our infrastructure is old, something we're very much aware of. It needs a lot of attention, and we're dedicating a lot of our resources, again, nearly 50% of our resources, to our utilities in some form or another. And so in the long-term planning, financial planning, and infrastructure planning, I feel like that's an area that is adequately covered. Of course, as water lines break, old water lines do that, we have to respond as necessary, and sometimes those can constitute emergencies, and we just have to get out there and fix them. But I think we are doing our best. We've got great public works staff who are trying to stay on top of those things, and they know our infrastructure inside and out, literally, and we pay a lot of attention to our utilities. And I think the FY18 budget adequately addresses the needs that we have in infrastructure, and particularly water.
Okay. Thank you. I hope that at least answered questions there. So any other comment? Okay.
Your Honor, seeing no further public comment, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so our fourth public hearing is to receive public comment on the proposed transfer of funds from the enterprise fund to the general fund for the cost of providing services necessary for the funds to operate in the 2017 fiscal year budget. Rich, back to you.
Mayor and Council, so this is a new requirement this year, and there was just debate about the new law and its language. So we decided to play it safe and do this notification in the utility bill like the other transfer, and hopefully we'll clean up the language for next year. The transfers, this is for services provided to the enterprise funds from the general fund. So we have insurance, finance, HR, IT, management oversight. These are all services provided to the enterprise funds. Other cities will directly expense these expenses to the enterprise funds instead of showing it as a transfer. So they take a portion of someone's salary and put it directly in there, so you wouldn't even see a transfer. But that's just how we do it here. And then just to add on to our city manager Adams' comments, in utilities specifically, we just did a rate study where we paid a third party and put a lot of input in ourselves. We projected out not just 3, but 9 years. So So these transfers and the water transfer are all built into the rates that are charged to our residents. So there is a lot of planning going into this, and there's a lot of projects projected out for those 9 years, and we've got a plan. So, any other questions or?
Okay, we'll declare the public hearing open. Do we have any comments in regards to this item? Okay,
Seeing no public comment, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and that brings us to our scheduled items. First item, scheduled item is our citizen comment period. I don't have any forms from anyone that was here to speak this evening. Was anyone here to address us in our citizen comment period? Okay, then we will move forward to consider approval of and consent to appointments to individuals for the Parks and Recreation Commission. We've got 3 vacancies on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and we've wrapped up interviews on a couple of different occasions for those. As we discussed in our work session this evening, it's proposed that we appoint Stuart Jones, Jeff Baker, and Jim Cordero as regular members of the Parks and Rec Commission, and David Greaves as an alternate member to the Parks and Rec Commission. Council, any comments or discussion on that?
Be excited to have them. They've always, it was mentioned earlier, they've been attending meetings already and have just been waiting for the authority to begin to actually function.
Okay, well then I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move that we accept your recommendations for the proposed appointments for the Park and Recreation Commission with terms expiring December 30th, 2019.
Number 31st?
Yeah, December, whatever I said. Whatever I meant, I mean.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Next item is to consider approval of ordinance 2017-11, authorizing the rezone of the property located at approximately 1250 South State Street from M1 Manufacturing to M1SP Manufacturing with a special purpose overlay. This is the piece we discussed earlier in regards to Stadler Rail coming in and the pieces surrounding and the need for that. Council, did you have any questions or concerns for Spencer?
Yeah, Your Honor, this is probably as good a time for me to bring up my significant reservation with this. And in fact, it's probably delineated in the fourth whereas clause in the ordinance here that the changes are in the best interest of Clearfield City and its residents and will most effectively implement planning efforts while allowing property to be put to highest and best use. And you know, Mayor, and many of you know, I've been involved in this as long as anybody has. When I was first elected, the whole usage of this land was actually a point of the election process at that time. And we came in, we were naive, we thought that, I'm not sure how to say it, but we thought that UTA and everyone would help us do a great thing for the city, and we found that now it's really has been managed by UTA's best interests and interests of you know, candidly, political strength and developers. So we were stymied by that, but I was there at the welding of the last rail. I was there when the first train pulled in and out of Clearfield Station. So this has been a part of my life for a long time. Many residents have always had a vision of where this could be. Throughout those 12 years, we've been stymied by the inability to do anything that didn't meet the needs or desires of UTA and their associated developers. Finally, at this point now, we have the opportunity to do something grand and bold. I don't think that this isn't the best use of the land. I think it benefits the state, it benefits UTA, and it certainly benefits Statler. It gets them out of some business situations. But as far as the guy that has decided to live in Clearfield and raise his family here and everything like that. It just simply is not a benefit to them. And I could be delighted to be convinced significant reservations in this. I think the reason we have to make these changes there is because no one ever conceived that this kind of a business would locate in Clearfield. And it would be great if it were anywhere else, but the opportunity to use that land for something that is visionary and bold and great for the city of Clearfield, we're losing this opportunity. I think what we're doing now is going to impact, this will be the most significant thing we ever do as elected officials. And it will impact Clearfield City for decades. And so if, I am deeply concerned that 20 years from now, people are going to bring their kids and their grandkids here and say, boy, they really messed up when they allowed that to happen. And instead, we could have a great thing that benefits the residents of Clearfield. So that's my lecture and my deeply held feelings on that.
And I appreciate that, and obviously no way for me to sit here tonight and convince you differently. I mean, we know that we differ on that. It's a hard call when you've got privately owned land, and what do you do with a landlord that owns 70 acres of land, and their intended purpose is to drive ridership for their train. It's the only reason they own the land. That becomes an issue, because while we may have grandiose dreams for it and wishes, hard to tie a property owner's hands behind their back and say, sorry, you can't develop your property, especially when it's been zoned and for that zoning for decades. You say, well, it's zoned manufacturing, it's been manufacturing. We changed it to a mixed use, but it never got executed, so it reverted back to a manufacturing. And to tell a landlord, we have a property here that's zoned for what your use is that you're requesting. Sorry, you can't build on that because we don't want that to be manufacturing. The concern for me there is that now you start stepping on property rights of not just an individual. In this case, yes, it is an entity, but it's an entity owned by, in whole or part, by the residents of not just Clearfield, but the entire state of Utah. And if their board of directors says this is what we feel is best for our property and it's already zoned that way, it does become a bit of a challenge to say, sorry, you can't build what you're actually zoned for.
And I appreciate that, Mayor, and you're right. I think we know the parameters of the discussion, and it certainly isn't a forum to debate this. But my understanding is, in the action that the UTA board took in declaring this surplus property, basically says something that I've been saying my entire political career, that I have the opportunity now just put a for sale sign in there and say, and it's never been allowed to do that. So UTA now is saying we can just sell it on the open market. We as a city, and I think, Mayor, you're aware that we had developed a transportation-oriented zone at one time, so that we could have that in place, so that we could control what went there through specifically zoning it that way. So now, the things have changed now, and that's part of my concern. Is now that there is an opportunity now for UTA to put a for sale sign out there and say, here's some land, highest bid gets it, Clearfield City, you can zone it how you want to control it, which is 12 years ago what we thought. That was our thought was what was going to happen. That was our dream, our vision, and we've been spending the last several years dealing with the reality that you just laid out. So, but again, we recognize the discussion and debate.
Sure. Okay. Well then, Council, I will entertain a motion on this item.
17-11, authorizing the rezone of property located at approximately 1250 South State Street from M1 to M1SP, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Requires a roll call. Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps?
Nay.
Passes by majority. Item number 8 is consider approval of resolution 2017R-05, setting the tax rate for all real and personal property in Clearfield at .001745. We just finished discussing this in our budget discussion as far as what our tax rate ended up being. Any questions, council, or concerns in regards to the tax rate? This is actually a decrease in property taxes.
In the rate.
It is a decrease in the rate, okay.
So, you know, I just have to say, I'm really delighted to vote for this. I think we know the discussion last year. I was deeply concerned that we didn't take this action last year, so I'm enthusiastically supportive of this.
It sounded almost like a motion.
Yeah, I move to approve resolution 2017R-09, setting tax rate for all real and personal property Clearfield at .001745% and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. So item number 9 is to consider approval of resolution 2017R-06, adopting the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget. Council, were there any concerns or questions that you had for Rich in regards to the budget before I call for a motion?
Just thank you to staff for 6 months worth of long, knockdown, drag-out nights and meetings to get us to this point.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I'll move to approve Resolution 2017R-06, adopting the 2017-18 fiscal year budget and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. So the next item on our agenda is item number 10, to consider approval for the award of bid for the Public Works Building Phase 2 project to Northridge Construction. And Scott, do you want to come up and give us some background here?
Mayor, Council, it's good to be with you this evening. Recently, the city went out for bids to construct a new building down at our Public Works shop. This new building would house the Public Works administrative offices. Currently, those administrative offices are in temporary, what you call construction-type trailers and add-ons that have been put on through the years.
You're in a portable.
Portable units, yes. And then the other part of this structure would house our parks maintenance facilities. There would be 5 bays for them to come in and work on their vehicles. There'd be additional areas in there where they could do welding, store sprinkler equipment, have a training room, break room, shower areas, and that. And then there would one bay to the side, which is a wash bay for vehicles to help us to be in compliance with the stormwater acts. The EPA has it. So we have the proper wash areas for our vehicles. So that's what this structure would consist of. We received 11 bids. The low bid was from Northridge Construction with a bid amount of $4,043,000. We met with the architects and Northridge Construction to do some value engineering on this for this project. As we went through the process, we was able to identify just over $222,000 that we could realize in savings towards the project without jeopardizing the integrity of this structure. And so that reduced that structure by that amount for that bid. And so we feel comfortable presenting this bid to you this evening for Northridge at that reduced rate.
Okay, council, any questions for Scott? And Scott, again, moving forward, if this is approved, then we're looking at spring for this to be finished?
Yes. received a schedule from Northridge. They are anxious to go in. It's a pretty aggressive schedule, and they're anticipating April of 2018 to have the building completed.
Okay, very good. Council, if there's not any questions for Scott, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the award of bid for the Public Works Building Phase 2 project to Northridge Construction with a valued engineering bid amount of $3,820,285 and contingency fees in the amount of $204,715 for a total project cost of $4,025,000, and authorize the mayor's signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. So item number 11 is to consider approval of Resolution 2017 R07, finding a section of property located in the vicinity of 343 West, 300 North is not a significant parcel of property, and directing staff to move forward with the exchange of said property for 3 other sections of property to adjust the Pacific Street right-of-way alignment. And we'll have Scott come back up and give us some background here.
Mayor, Council, in this current year's budget, we have a project that is called Pacific Street. We're proposing to go in there and improve the Pacific Street, and that would be from 300 North to the south down to about 50 south or 50 north, somewhere in that area. This area road is in pretty poor condition this time. There's been a couple of new subdivisions, new streets that have been recently built in this vicinity. We've kind of been holding off doing this project till those subdivisions were completed. So we keep their construction traffic off of that, and the roads that the utilities they needed to cut in to this road would be completed so we could go in there and make the improvements afterwards. As we had the engineers doing the design for this, on the north end of Pacific Street, up by 300 North, there's a corner house, the landing zone, that we needed to do some right-of-way adjusting to make the road work a little bit better. And so there's some properties that we need to get from the Landons. We've met with the Landons. They have already signed the deeds for their property to deed to the city. And there's a section of property that we need to deed to them to clean up that right-of-way that would be a remnant piece of property. It's probably about 210 feet long, goes to 0 point, to the widest point of maybe 10, 12 feet, and then back to 0 on the other end. So it's just a real narrow piece of property that we clean up the east side of third property.
Okay. Council, any questions for Scott?
Just to make sure there's no financial facet of this, it was straight exchange.
As we met with them, we are going to do some betterments with the project.
Okay.
Those betterments would be to, they have a cherry tree that is part of the property that we'll be taking from them. They asked if we could relocate that cherry tree plus plant a new little cherry tree to the side of there, so we will try to accommodate that. There's some fencing that we'll have to relocate for them. And then we are going to put in a driveway, just a small section of driveway to compensate for the additional property that we would be taking from them.
So the cost of that was anticipated in the cost of the overall project?
And we've already got that as part of the design of the project, so it will be bid out as part of that project.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you, Scott. I'll entertain a motion then.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 2017-R-07, finding that a section of property located in the vicinity of 343 West, 300 North is not a significant parcel of property, and direct staff to move forward with the exchange of said property for sections of property currently owned by Robert and Cheryl Landon, as well as other betterments, and authorize their signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It requires a roll call vote. Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
And Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
That is unanimous. The last item on our agenda is to consider approval of ordinance 2017-10, amending the consolidated fee schedule, adjusting the aquatic center and recreation fees, and adding chicken licenses. Scott, or excuse me, not Scott, Eric. Yeah, Scott's not, I don't want to come back up there. Eric, would you come up and just kind of give us some information on our fee schedule?
Absolutely. Just a few adjustments to the fees, primarily at the Aquatic and Fitness Center. We're in year 12. We just passed the 12-year anniversary of that facility. This is the second fee change in that 12-year period, so we're about every 6 years. We're proposing minor changes to the annual membership fees. For residents, in most cases, a $5 increase on an annual pass and $10 for non-residents. Cancellation fees and punch pass fees are changing just slightly, about $1.50 per pass. Also changes to the usage of the daycare. Punch passes for that are proposed changes. Swim lessons is one area where, as I had mentioned in the work session prior, we have such a demand for our swim lessons that many people have a hard time getting in. And so that to me is an indication that our fees are lower than they should be. We're making minor adjustments from $31 for residents to $34, so not a large increase, and that's an attempt to try and balance both of those things. We don't want to price those things out of reach of our members, out of our residents in particular. But there are adjustments there, as well as to the swim teams. As I mentioned earlier, we have currently 3 swim teams, including our own, CCAT, and then Clearfield, Northridge, and Syracuse high schools wanting to use the facility. We've changed our structure and the fees accordingly to try and accommodate that usage. There are also facility rental adjustments, primarily in relation to the repainting of the gym floor last year. Makes it easier for us to break up the gym into different courts, individual courts. So there are now, we're proposing, rather than a full court and a half court rental, a full gym, half gym, 1 quarter or 1 full of the 4 courts, and 1 basket, hourly rental fees. And then changes to personal training. We previously had just a couples rate and a single rate. We've added, basically changing that for personal training for 1 individual based on 1, 3, 6, or 10 sessions, and then group personal training, again, for 1, 3, 6, or 10 sessions. And that is it for the changes at the Aquatic Center. And I don't know if there are any specific questions for those specific fees. I can address those, but those were outlined in more detail in the work session. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have there. The one other fee that we are proposing is in conjunction with our athletic field use policy, changing the field use for baseball and softball fields for practices to an $8 an hour fee, and for soccer fields for $10 an hour fee. And that is for organized groups that are currently using those fields. And as was mentioned earlier, that is in an attempt to discourage these organizations from reserving, because there's no fee, a lot more time slots than they need, allowing us to make that available to more groups and only have people reserve those practice fields for times that they will actually need to use. And that is it for what we've proposed. Are there any questions that I can answer?
So, Eric, when was the last time the fees were raised at the Aquatic Center?
It's been a long time, at least 6 years. I don't know the specific date, but it's been
a long time.
And so, like, as I mentioned, the fee increases for the annual memberships, we're looking at less than $1 a year since the last change. For an annual membership, that's not a significant increase, but we feel that it's necessary to make some adjustment.
Any other questions for Eric? Okay, and the other fee that is on there is the chicken license as we authorized residential fowl, backyard chickens a month or so ago. It was approved at that point that we charge a $15 licensing fee, and this is just adding that into our fee schedule. Council, if there's no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move we approve ordinance 2017-10, amending the consolidated fee schedule and adjusting aquatic center and recreation fees and adding chicken license license fees, I guess, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Phipps?
Aye.
Councilmember Roper?
Aye.
Councilmember Young?
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson?
Aye.
Councilmember Bush?
Aye.
That is unanimous. That brings us to our communication items. Just a note that I will be out of town next Monday through Wednesday up to the National League of Cities Leadership Conference, Leadership Planning. And so Kent's in charge. You do have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. Enjoy. Councilmember Young? Okay.
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Okay. Councilmember Bush?
Just that the Kiwanis, this time of year, we award the Hope of America and Freedom Leadership Awards. I did some at North Davis Junior High and 6 of our elementaries the past couple of weeks. The sewer district, our meeting last week, the state didn't get our tax rate to us in time for that meeting, so we're going to be meeting next Wednesday at 4 o'clock to approve our tax rate for the sewer district. And then this Thursday, I'm going to be attending the Utah Digital Government Summit in Salt Lake all day. So, did anybody else get an invite?
I did, and I couldn't attend. It looked interesting, though.
Okay. That's all I have. I'll report back next time on stuff that I learned.
Okay, we appreciate you representing us there. Councilmember Peterson.
And many of you have seen in the news, Sunset City Council took action back in May to request that the North Davis Fire District formally annex them and provide fire services for their department. Their city is struggling with budget concerns and made a request to the fire district to do that as part of their overall budget concerns to reduce the amount that they have there for operations. The North Davis Fire District reviewed that proposal and voted to approve annexation, has begun that process. It will take several months to do that. In the meantime, there is working with Sunset City right now to begin the process of that transfer and make sure that the residents there in Sunset City have adequate protection so that they have fire and EMS service to them so that our neighbors to the north are protected, and that is anticipated to begin July 1st.
We do have an interlocal agreement that we'll approve on Thursday night at our fire district meeting. Councilmember Roper.
I just wanted to recognize our residents. Well, many of them don't show up here. They're actually pretty aware of what we do and what goes on around here, and I appreciate a lot of their feedback.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Councilmember Phipps.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. One of them is the Hill Air Force Base Restoration Advisory Board. I've mentioned before that the indoor air sampling program was going to be discontinued. They're actually formally doing that. They require to have public hearings and those kinds of things. Just if you're concerned about that, I can go into more detail, but just let you know that public hearings will be noticed, public feedback regarding, because there are homes in Clearfield, several hundred that have been involved in that air sampling program over the last several years, including probably your home there. So that's it's more of a formality because they haven't done it for about 2 years now.
Yeah.
But it's federal government, so you do what they tell you to do. In the Wasatch Integrated, several things have come up recently. There was an update to the solid waste management plan which provides the planning for solid waste management over the next several years with the decommissioning of the waste energy recovery facility. Now we enter a phase of building a transfer station, and transfer station is in the 2018 budget. Because of cost avoidance, there's no expected increase in fees or cost. So that will be operational, and then the second phase of that will be reactivating the trommel, those of you that know, and begin to extract the recycles out of the waste stream again. So things are moving forward in that. I sent it to the mayor and to Adam, the electronic copy of that plan, if you would like to see all the gory details in it. To me, it's interesting, but I don't want to burden any of that. So, but part of that also was the company that did that study also looked at recycling in general in the district, and so a couple of things came out of that. One of us enhancing our recycling capabilities, including part of that is the additional effort to increase recycling through the waste stream at the Wasatch Integrated. Also, they reviewed contracts for every entity in the district and found there were some non-standard contracting language that would be beneficial to the city if when we renegotiate our contracts, that we include those. Sort of a surprise that it was not a traditional contract with haulers that is typical across the nation, but it was county-wide. It's not just our city. So, but that's a couple of years away for us. But as we get to renegotiating that contract, we can have some more favorable clauses in that contract. Nate volunteered, said if we are ever interested, he'd be happy to come and explain to us the new long-term planning of what they have, but it depends upon your interest there. A couple of things that I think you may be interested in. We are, as a district, very committed to reuse and recycling and those kinds of things. So we're actually and this is public knowledge, that we're in negotiations with a cement plant to provide them processed waste that they will use in their incinerators. And so there's a distinct possibility we'll begin transferring some of the waste, residential waste, up there to that. We're also in the process of entering into an agreement with, I guess it's South Davis County Sewer District, that is beginning to create their own compost, and they're willing to buy some of our waste. Those of you that saw the trommel see what comes out at the end of that, and they've run the tests on that and things, and South Davis is interested in actually purchasing that from us, mixing it with the other stuff that they deal with, and coming up with a sellable material. So a couple of things are really exciting there. So we've lost the burn plant, but there's some pretty exciting things going on about reuse of the waste stream. And a couple of other administrative things. I know that the chief may be aware of that, but there's the burn plant actually was highly used for destruction of evidence and those kinds of things. They can still have secure destruction of evidence there, so that capability is not lost. They also are strongly enforcing the covered load fee now, where they used to just tell people, we really wish you would. As of 1 June, they will be fining you $10 if you show up without an uncovered load. But they said $10 is, Layton City is seeing this as a revenue stream. Their fee for uncovered load is $200, so you hope that Wasatch Integrate catches you and not Layton City. So with that, anyway, this whole thing with recycling was what led to this item being on the agenda tonight, to talk about green waste recycling, because green waste going into a landfill is just a waste of landfill space, a waste of a resource. And the more we can pull out of that, the less landfill usage we'll have and the more capacity we'll have. And when we're looking at as much, especially during the summer, dramatic percentage of the waste that goes there is recyclable green waste. If we can remove that from the stream, it benefits everyone.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thanks for sending the report to me. That was actually kind of interesting to start.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of really interesting numbers in there.
It was. I didn't, a lot in there. I would recommend council take a look at it as well if they're interested. And it's nice to know that the Wasatch Integrated Board still has things to do even after the burn plant decision. I figured as soon as that was done, it was all we ever talked about while I was on that board, so it seemed to be the topic of discussion consistently. So.
There's always a lot of garbage to talk about.
Very true. I failed to recognize we do have Parks and Recreation commissioners that we just approved tonight. If you're here for that, would you just stand up so we can recognize who you are and turn around and wave at the camera that's broadcasting us out there on Facebook? All right. We appreciate you being here for a meeting tonight. Thank you very much. It means a lot to us.
Can I mention one more thing?
Yes.
The open house at Wasatch, I thought that was very well done. Thanks to the staff and to UDOT for being there with the 700 South interchange thing. There were several residents there that had some questions about that and some other things with the police department concerns and other things, and I think that we answered their questions and concerns, so I enjoyed doing those and look forward to keep doing those in the future.
Very good. And Nika, did you want to mention float?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I omitted to do that. To the council, our official build date for the float is Saturday, June 24th, June 24th at 8 o'clock down at the city shops. So we will be putting that together, and just wanted to recognize again Clearfield High School. We reached out to the welding department to see if they could help us there, and their instructor Bruce Decker was more than happy to make that happen, and the students there came up with something absolutely amazing and welded it just to the specs that we needed, with a lot of very fun, very Clearfield, very Clearfield Falcon little touches to that. So we're excited to roll that out on the 4th of July. So I look forward to you guys coming and helping with glitter on the 24th.
Very cool. So staff reports. Adam?
Thank you. We sent our monthly report today, and there's a lot of information in that. Just want to say thanks to all involved with the FY18 budget. You all know that's a monumental effort, and feels like, well, for me, I'll just speak for myself, I feel like there's this enormous weight off my shoulders now. The budget's approved. We move into the FY18 fiscal year here in a couple of weeks, and we're ready to go. There's a lot of great stuff in that budget. I think our residents will be really happy with the projects that are being completed. You know, some of those are really fun and exciting, new playgrounds, things like that. Others not so exciting, but very important, essential infrastructure. But there's a lot of great things in that budget. You know, one thing that I would want to point out, and that Councilmember Peterson also pointed out as we were up here, it's no small feat to be able to cash fund the public works facilities. Now, those buildings down there, 50, some 60 years old, if there were, you know, even with the winds yesterday, I worry that some of those buildings are going to blow over, and it's not going to be good. Way out of code, outdated. They don't meet the needs of our employees who are trying to serve our residents. It's a set of improvements that's greatly overdue, and it's no accident that we're able to cash fund those. That's many years of very careful planning as we've anticipated those needs, made arrangements for those, built those funds into our rates, and to not have to incur any debt for our taxpayers, I think is pretty remarkable, and we're proud of that. And that's not always the case. It's a good borrowing environment if we had to, but we're glad that we don't have to. And just want to commend staff for that in particular, and also the entire budget. We hope, Council, that the budget represents, as much as we're able, all of your needs and goals that you have collectively. I'm already aware of some things that are, you know, on the agenda for next year, and I've gotten feedback about things that you'd like us to anticipate, and we are, and we appreciate that feedback in that direction from you all, and appreciate the opportunity to serve our community. So thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Nancy?
We'll be meeting that day somewhere.
Okay, any other staff reports? Eric?
I just wanted to update the council briefly on the playground equipment. That will be delivered Thursday. We've had a couple of delays in that process, but we anticipate that, well, we know it's going to be here Thursday now. That much we know for sure. We'll begin laying things out tomorrow. We have a pre-construction or installation meeting tomorrow morning with the vendor and the contractor that'll be doing the install of North Steed to begin that process. And we'll have the first three playgrounds, North Steed, Train Watch, and the electronic playground at Fisher Park. Those should all be completed by about the 23rd. We won't get any others completed before because we have that little event called the 4th of July right after that that's going to keep us busy, and then we'll resume that work in July after the 4th. We anticipate and are planning for our community build at Train Watch on Friday the 23rd, beginning at 3. That's mostly firm, depending on our meeting tomorrow and weather changes between now and then, but it looks good. So I just wanted to update you on that process. We're excited to get started.
Fantastic.
Real quick, may I ask the time on that, just because I know that that's the employee party that same night?
Yeah, it's at 3 o'clock, so we're planning to be finished by then, but it's going to be,
You guys can go.
it'll be a push. Yeah, we'll get it done.
Your Honor, I just had two more things, if I could quickly. First of all, just an update on the 700 South Street Improvement Project off of 1000 West. So right there at the intersection where we have a new traffic signal that's planned, it's a project that we're putting a lot of effort into right now. One of the property owners that's right there at the intersection, we're needing to get with them, acquire some easements. For whatever reason, we've run into some real difficulties. That property owner, for whatever reason, is just not interested in working with us on the project. And so we're continuing to make that efforts, but I just wanted to follow up that's definitely been a snag. We can't even get them to come to the door now when we know they're in the house. So it's tough to proceed at that point. We're not sure what their reservations are. We would certainly be looking to do whatever we could to mitigate the impacts to them, but that is a challenge, and we try to be respectful and careful as we enter those types of negotiations. We understand that there is an impact to that property owner, but we'll continue to make those efforts and try to move that project forward as quickly as we can. Secondly, I just wanted to make an announcement that one of the items that we've been talking about for, well, it's been a while, probably years now, is trying to better coordinate all of the volunteers in our community with the service needs that we have. It's easier when it's a service project, for example, that the city is involved in or on city property, but we're not very well equipped to handle those needs that exist throughout the community on private property, whatever those may be. And there are a lot of those that we become aware of, and we're just not very well equipped to handle those. And so we even talked about this in our kickoff meeting back in January, but we have been looking for a good solution there. And recently, I think all of you know Don Wood. Don and his wife returned home from a mission for the LDS Church. And as soon as Don was home, we thought, Don, with everything that he likes to do and his strengths, we thought Don would be a great coordinator for that type of activity. So we met with him, and we've had a couple of meetings actually, and we've kind of outlined what we're hoping that he can do. And he's embraced that and really run with it. We'll piggyback on the Just Serve platform that some of you may be aware of. It's great infrastructure that already exists, so we're not having to recreate the wheel. But Don is very graciously serving in that capacity for us, and we appreciate that. And that's something that it's still in its infancy. So if you haven't heard anything about that until right now, that's okay. This is breaking news. But Eric's coordinating with him to have the community builds on the Just Serve website. We'll be having Trevor coordinate the communication of those. But that's something that you'll continue to see grow, and we hope that other groups within our community, the various churches and civic organizations, will help that grow. Even our private sector businesses, we'd love to encourage their support as well. And so we'll be meeting with them. But we think that that's one of those things that can really make a difference in our community for our residents with all the needs that are out there. So we're excited for that. We're going to continue to be working on that, and we're grateful for Don's help on that.
Thanks. I'm excited to see that one finally come to fruition and take wing. Okay, well, with that, council, I would entertain a motion to adjourn as the city council and reconvene as the Community Development Renewal Agency.
Your Honor, I move to adjourn as the city council and reconvene as the CDRA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, so first item of business we have as CDRA is to look at the minutes from March 28th, 2017, the policy session, and the April 11th, 2017 work and policy session, April 18th, 2017 work session, and May 9th, 2017 policy session. Has everybody had a chance to review that?
Yeah, I've got on the March 28th meeting, it says Mayor Shepherd called the meeting to order instead of Bruce.
Yeah, that would be important.
He may have called me to order to call it to order, I'm not
That's
sure.
right. Yeah.
So that's the only change I have with that. I will make a motion to approve the minutes with that change.
Second.
Motion and second, were there any more comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved. The next item we have is a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed 2017-2018 fiscal year budget. So Rich, would you like to give some background?
The fiscal 18 budget for CDRA has 1.879 million in revenues budgeted and just under 50,000 in expenditures. 50,000 of that is our gateway sign project that's rolled over from 17. Any questions?
Okay. With that being said, I declare this public hearing open. And is there any public comment on this item?
Chairman Young, seeing no request to comment, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is now closed. And the next item of business we have is to consider approval of Resolution 2017R-02 to adopt the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget. So we've just heard the background on that. Is there any further discussion on that budget?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 2017R-02, adopting the 2017-2018 fiscal year budget, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Director Phipps, how do you say?
Aye.
Director Bush?
Aye.
Director Roper?
Aye.
Director Peterson?
Aye.
And Director Shepherd?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. And that's the last item of business we have, so I would accept a motion to adjourn, reconvene as city council work session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.